Miranda Dennis again. I'm back for another Christian singles chat. Super excited. We've been doing this a couple of times. Last year, we focused on the men and talking about male mental health. Now we're just focusing on topics specifically that are related to singles and trying to give you all some really practical tips, tools, things to think about in this season that you're currently in, instead of waiting until you're in a relationship and then not really knowing how to function. So tonight we're going to be talking about the very important topic of money. Okay, money, money, money. Hey, everybody needs money. You love money. You know, I don't know about you all, but everything that I have, I paid for with money. So sometimes people say, well, if you know any couple, and you yourself, money is a huge important thing, but it also can be one of the things that can make or break a relationship. So tonight we have a financial social worker with us, Dr. Parks. She's going to be talking to us from her perspective. We'll do it just like our regular platform, as far as we have some questions. As you jump in on the live, if you're present, we'll answer your questions on the live. If you're in our single and faithfully expecting group, I'll go back and we'll answer questions from there as well. So let me turn the floor over just for a brief moment here to Dr. Parks. You want to say hello, tell us about yourself, what inspired you to start working in financial social work? It's a little bit different, and not many people know what that is.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. And thank you, Miranda, for this opportunity just to come to speak to your community regarding finances. My name is Dr. Chandra Parks. I am a licensed master social worker. I do have my PhD in pastoral counseling, and I also have my certification in financial social work. And so a lot of people always wonder, well, what is a financial social worker? So it was maybe about 7 years ago, maybe 2013. I was struggling with my own finances and feeling overwhelmed with debt, not really understanding credit. And I just wanted to improve my overall financial well-being. And I came across this particular certification program. And as social workers, we are always looking for creative ways to have continuing education credits, units. And
Yes.
so I came, I was like, wow, okay, here we're talking about money and here. And so what I liked about the particular program is because it moves you beyond the dollars and cents. You understand, I have to save this, I have to invest this, I have to have a savings account, I have to have an emergency account. But what it does focus is on your own personal financial story and the behaviors and habits that may lead you on a particular path that may either be destructive or a path that you say, you know what, I made some past mistakes. I could take the opportunity to really examine myself and what changes that I need to make internally so I could end up at the financial destination, or I could end up at my financial goals that I have set for myself. So it's a more of a emotional and behavioral change approach versus how much money I should invest. And so oftentimes that is oftentimes what is missed when we're looking at finances. We oftentimes forget our emotions, our overall mental health impact the financial decisions that we make.
Yes, yeah. We could stop right there and have like 10 different conversations off of that as well. So do you offer like consultations surrounding finances, and do you have services like that you can provide to people who maybe have come from a family where, if you had it, you had it, and if you didn't, you just figured out how to get it, and not really sure about some of these basic things and how their behaviors are impacting directly the financial decisions that they're making now.
So what I do is I offer consultation, and I do more of the financial coaching from a particular aspect in terms of financial change, because there are numerous programs in terms of money management programs, financial education programs that focus on the dollars and cents. What
Mm-hmm.
I do focus on the internal beyond the dollar and cents, and look at a more holistic approach and looking at our overall social, looking at overall physical, looking at our mental, overall our spiritual well-being, and looking
Yes.
at how we can set goals in those particular areas that will overall impact how you go about writing a financial plan, and be intentional about the goals that you put on that, so you're able to see the results that you're looking for. So that is what I actually work with
Awesome.
my families on. I work with close clients on those particular
Mhm.
areas, helping them have a better relationship with money. And
Okay.
oftentimes we
Yes,
have
love
taught
it.
not to have a relationship with money, or we have these myths that, okay, the love of money or the money is the root of all evil, which is not a correct
Right.
representation to the love of money. And at the same time, it says money answers
It's
all things.
all things. All things.
So being able to have that balance and understanding what
Yes.
your philosophy is when it comes to money, what you
Hmm.
believe in when it comes to money, what is your own values as it relates to money, and what is your own financial boundaries that you're going to set up. So this is what
Hmm.
helps you govern within making your wise financial decisions, whether you're
Yes.
single, whether you're within a couple, and how to move forward financially.
Yes. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So if somebody wants to connect with you for a consultation, what's a good way to do that?
If you want to connect with me with consultation, you can connect with me on Facebook. My company is Soul, SOUL, the number two, and SOLE. Wellness. That is my Facebook page. And you can also reach out to me via email at s2swellnessgroup@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And for those of you who are inside the Single and Faithfully Expecting Facebook group, we will also put her information there, and that way you can go and like her page, and you can at least find out more information and learn some really great financial tips. So awesome. Thank you. So we have some great questions that people have
Yes.
asked me. And
Mhm.
so I can't wait to ask you so you can
Oh,
help
please do.
us.
And
So
it's a
what?
dialogue, and a conversation about money is ongoing. So
Yes,
that's one thing you just want to keep in mind, that when you talk about finances, is ongoing. Two, you also want to keep in mind that as you grow older, each particular season of your life, the aspect of money for what you need at that particular time is also going to change. So money conversations are constantly ongoing as you continue to grow and evolve in your own personhood. So should your financial aspirations.
I love it. Love it. That's a great, great point because sometimes people think, "Oh, okay, well, I took that already, so I already know." But your habits have changed, the person you are changes, life changes.
Yes.
So it's always good to have a good check-in. So this can become something that we can do even like quarterly. I know you and I were talking about doing that just to check in and remind people of being aware of their spending habits, making sure they're asking great questions, making sure they're preparing themselves for dating, for living a financially well life, for marriage, if that's what they want. So one of the, yep, go ahead.
And I was going to say, and also, with that, if you think about, we're required to get a medical physical at least once a year.
Yes.
So something practically, you should be able to look at your overall financial health and well-being at least
Mhm.
once a year.
That's a good reminder. At least minimal
A minimal,
people.
at least, give you a financial, checkup. At least when you're looking at your
Yes.
overall financial life picture and everything, the totality of that particular assessment to see if you're on track and some other areas, but
Yes.
minimally at least once a year.
I love that. Awesome. So make sure you guys connect if you are interested in learning more. Soul to Soul Wellness,
Mhm.
and we will post that in the Facebook group as well. So here's one of the first questions that people always ask me.
Mhm.
And we've talked about a little bit about it on another Single and Faithfully
Mhm.
Expecting Christian chat. And it's about this question about how soon should we even be talking about money if in the dating process? Some people want to know about it right away. Are we going Dutch? Or is he paying? Am I paying? And when to bring up this awkward thing called money as you're dating and getting to know someone. Is that something that you think people should talk about right up front? Is it what do you suggest as far as that? Because it can be a little odd conversation and you don't want to be too nosy about somebody's finances.
Right, right. It is. It's a delicate topic because money is personal. It is emotional. So
Yeah.
when you look at your particular aspect in terms of dating, you have to look at, okay, how many people am I now dating? Where are we at in this particular dating relationship? Because is it just me, or if I'm having two or three different people in the same circle
Mm,
at the same time? So if you have already identified that, okay, this person is the one that I'm going to solely focus my attention on, and that time frame may be, I don't know, 60 or not, I don't know what that particular time frame, but once you have identified that I'm solely going to focus on this one individual, that we are going to date, whatever title that you want to give it to.
mhm,
Then after that piece, because you have known this person, you have going back and forth, and you have established some a little bit, guidelines. Then afterwards, it's great to have a creative, conversation about, money.
mhm,
Oftentimes, how do I broach that particular subject is, or how comfortable are you talking about money, your own
mm,
personal money story? And when I say money story, what is habits about, money? So within
mhm.
that, I will say, you meet someone today. Of course, tomorrow you're not asking about, okay, well, how much money, but you can ask, like, what are your goals for the future? So there's a
Yeah.
way you can find out questions about, money,
Mhm.
or what are some things that you like, or where do you spend most of your, time? It gives you an idea if they have any
Yeah.
habits or hobbies, or if I'm in school, I'm in law school, okay. Um, so you definitely know there's, a call, so you can be able to ask about personal, stuff. And then
Mhm.
um, you start out general, just asking like basic safe questions. And then the more that you want to tie in learn a little bit more about an individual, then you can start asking some, questions like, okay, since we're dating, what do we think should be the expectations of our particular, relationship, and really
Mhm.
understanding how we do our, relationship. Are you going to pay for
Mhm.
every particular, date? Or am I going to go have, what is the expectation for our
Mhm.
relationship? What is the guidelines in terms of costs that we want to attribute right now during this, period,
Okay.
and setting
You
those clear
you've said a
boundaries
lot of
up.
good stuff. You just even in that little bit. So you've given us a couple of questions to ask. You've given us, but one of the big things that I hear you're saying is when you've decided that we are exclusive and we are dating, just that part alone, I don't know about you and in your interaction, but in what I'm seeing is people are in this, let's just see where we go, let's just, take it easy, let's just get to know each other. And they put themselves in these loose categories of dating someone. And then because they haven't defined, I'm dating this
Mhm.
person, then they often find that it's difficult to ask some of these important questions, whether it be finances or what have you, because they haven't defined and decided that yes, this is a person that I want to date, and whether it be for rejection, whether it be for they're dating other people, it just seems like this whole movement, so to speak, of let's just see where things go. The unfortunate part about that is when you are in those types of situations and you don't have really good parameters, things like money conversations are more difficult. So even aside just from the money matters, which we are certainly talking about, the relationship aspect, you have to establish, is this a relationship
Right,
that I want to be in? Am I committed to this? Is this person
right,
committed to me? Because if you're not, then why are you in that connection? And
right, exactly. And why you're, within that time, with there. And then when you think about it, when you are committed in that relationship, mind you, we're not all the way perfected in what we're going. We are still walking through some stuff in terms of
yes.
healing. So you're taking you're beginning to open yourself up to everything that that individual may have in terms of their habits, the good, the bad, and
Yes.
the ugly. And so when you look at that, it's like, okay, I need to understand what these parameters are in the beginning. Like if we're not, exclusively committed to one another, then my, financial boundaries are going to be like, this is what I'm going to commit, and this is what type of financial resource I'm going to commit at this particular stage. If we
Mhm.
move to the next level, that we're here, this and that, okay, then we need to, have this conversation in terms of what is it going to look like? Because if you understand your personality, and I may use myself as an example,
Sure.
I am a giver. Like if you're my friend and I know something about you and this is going to help you to where you need to go, if I pick up, I see something in the store, a book that you like, I'm going to pick it up and say, hey, I
Mm,
got this for you. I've already spent money, but because I have invested in that particular, relationship, and I have identified that we are friends. So if you receive that or not, that's great. It's no hard, feelings. But for, other people, if they don't clearly
right.
understand and not understand their particular personality and what they are, they might find themselves ending up spending a lot of money or investing in stuff
Mm,
and not getting the ORI, the return of investment that they were
that's
looking
right.
for, because but it wasn't clear on that. So within these relationships, it's good to know and understand your own money personality, your, thoughts about spending, why you're giving, and all of that combined together, because
Yes.
that would help you in terms of relationships. So, how should I give? What should we accept? We're getting ready to move to the holiday season. So say if you met
Right.
someone, is it an expectation that we're going to exchange gifts? Like, and if we are, then what is the amount? Because I really don't know you, but yet it's the holiday season, because 'tis the season
Mm.
to giving and everyone likes to give. So
Right.
so,
Right.
I, think about like, okay, what is this? I don't know you, but at the same time, because of my personality, happy holidays. What is that going to look like? And, that piece.
Those are good questions. And you start talking a little bit earlier about questions to ask, to find
Mhm.
out, like are you in school, or, where do you see your future going, things like that. But are there any specific financial questions that definitely that you're like, these questions, now we've established that yes, you're in a committed relationship. What are some of the questions that you think people really should be asking so that they know, is this a person I'm going to stay with, or is this an area of weakness that we need to work on? But without, because it's a touchy subject, because you don't want to offend somebody, you don't want to look like a gold digger. But there are some really pointed questions that I think should be
Mhm.
asked. I don't necessarily know what they are, so that's why we have the financial social work
Well,
expert
I
here
think
today.
I definitely, when you look at, questions of where they are and everything over life stuff and stuff like that, you can start out, safe way, in terms of does anything, depending on what the conversation, maybe like, what are your thoughts about money?
Just
And
right out, just ask, what are your
just
thoughts
like,
about money? Okay.
what are your thoughts about, money? Does the topic of money, does it stress you out?
Okay.
Does it overwhelm you? Or, what are your beliefs
Mm,
about, money, in terms of community investment, in terms of, giving? So just really just asking, overall. I think oftentimes if we stay in like we sugarcoat this, then it's, but I
right.
think it's a creative way that say, hey, we're in this, stuff like that. Let's talk about this. We're spending money each and every day. Millions of Americans are losing jobs. So there's a way you could take, what's going on around you
That's
that's
true.
about money, and how you could bring it back, to this, asset. If money were not an object, question, what would you
Okay.
do?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I like
so you need
that.
to ask those particular questions, but in a safe community, and hopefully as you're having conversations about other life, issues, you can determine if this person is able, is safe in terms of
Okay.
your communication. Like once you got past the surface stuff, and once, here, how have you had any deep conversations that like, wow, this is really, interesting, thoughts. And then let's see if you can shift
Mhm.
in terms of, financial, in terms of what is your goals for the future, and if within those
Mhm.
particular goals, what does that cost? Have you examined the cost of those particular, goals, and
Okay.
what
That
does
makes
that look?
sense.
So, from there, and so if marriage is in your really, what is it about that you're looking for or hoping to, gain out of that, and what
Mhm.
is your expectations. And so the further down that you have these particular conversations, then you can have, those questions. And oftentimes you will have already talked about money in a small way in terms of, okay, here, how much do you want to, spend? If we go out to, dinner, what is that? You're already kind of seeing what that aspect is going to look like, depending on where you go out on a particular date.
That's true.
Whether
you're
you're
going to
going
McDonald's, no.
to McDonald's, or you're going to Applebee's, or are you going to the chart house, depending on what's happening, spending any resources. So that could be in a good way, but then that could also be in a bad way. It's like, okay, you don't, that person really has a ability to afford this. So it's oftentimes talking, have that conversation, like what type is your lifestyle? And that's why I started with understanding your own money story, that if I'm in a relationship with someone, what is the expectations and what do I see in myself, and what do I think is my quality of living? That if I'm with someone, what is that going to look like? If we go out on a date, I'm cool. We could go to Ruby Tuesdays. We can go to Red Lobster. We can go to the Chart House. But at the end of the day, what is my financial goal? Because my financial plan is like, I want to save to go over here. So I'm not going to spend all my money over here. So it's really understanding what your goals and how that may be in terms of shopping. So really understanding the money personality of the person that you're with will help determine those money conversations. Like if this person is a spender and you're a saver, then you're definitely gonna have some conversation, because that person like, well, let's that you're having, you're like, no, I'm a saver. We have to find some type of middle ground that both be, comfortable with. So there's a whole way that goes in there to ask that. And so then you begin to ask, questions, credit, what does this, look like? Okay, you or yourself is utilizing credit. We utilize credit. It's how do we utilize that credit? Do we utilize that credit in a healthy manner, or do we utilize that in an unhealthy manner where we're trying to keep up with everyone, but because we did not, manage, and we're tight on this and we're trying to make ends meet, then those are some things that you need to sit down and kind of observe and say, okay, let's look at this, because I don't want you to feel like that you got to do all this to try to, hear. And so I think that's where it comes through. Like another book was the 5 love languages. Understand your love language, understand whether it's acts of service, affirmation, gifts. And so if a person's constantly spending, they really don't have it, but this is their service, is finding out what ways that we can kind of balance and meet the time, quality time. So one quality time doesn't necessarily always have to mean that we had to go out, somewhere, and what are the goals. And so as you begin to get more serious and more in line with the relationship, and you guys begin to have conversations, say, okay, this is what we want out of our future together, financially, then you begin to start, okay, what are those money personalities? What is the money, vision for the household? What are some myths? How did you were brought up and raised, in terms of your financial experiences? What did you see? Who managed the finances in a household? Was there such a struggle, here? And so and so those are the stories, the conversations that you begin to see. What are your financial, habits? How do you pay expenses? And so I use, and this is one of the things that I used to. This is the one I used to always use all the time when I had, major credit card debt, and different, the bill collectors were calling you left and right and left and right. This is my own story. I used to say, well, look, guess what? As long as I owe you, you would never go broke. So stop calling my house. You would get paid when you get paid. Like, come on now, come on. I got things to do, as long as but then I kept saying that, but then I had to step back and I had to change my attitude. I was like, wait, hold up, wait a minute. As long as I owe you, I'm not trying to be in credit card debt for the rest of my life. So why I keep saying that as long as I owe you, that go broke? But that's what I utilized for so many years. I mean, it got paid. It just wasn't on time. And so those little habits that we don't know kind of creep up on you, and you're like, oh, gracious, wait, I'm saying that because no, I don't want to be a slave to the credit
That's
card
right.
too. Then
That's
what
right.
is what is my history when I'm looking at my credit card history and I'm trying to get a house? Every time they see everything is late, 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 it gets paid, but it's not on time. So now my
Mm-hmm.
credit score is here, which is keeping me from an opportunity because I keep telling people as long as I owe you, you'll never go broke. So I had to
That's not
quickly,
gonna work
it
long
wasn't going
term.
to
Yeah.
work. But I use that as an example. It's like, okay, what
Yeah.
are those habits that a person may,
Mm-hmm.
have? It's a good thing, but what is those habits, those little small foxes that trip us up
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
other, areas? Okay, great. So that's one thing. Then you think about another person. Um, it's just not the other person, but what is the relationship with money, with family? So if they're constantly got here giving money to this person because this
Mm-hmm.
person this and they don't have good healthy financial boundaries, then if you're tied together as a couple, what you're
Right.
here. And so when you look at the overall household and a person says, hey, big mama or someone, this is something they need money, so I'm going to go ahead and give it to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, wait a minute, hold up. But that is what you're you're coming with. So it's important to have those conversations and
Yes.
understand their level, their generosity, giving, what is that amount that is okay that I'm going to give someone. I never
Mm-hmm.
say borrow because I learned my lessons here, but what is that line item in your particular financial plan that you
Mm-hmm.
have that you're going to be able to give money away without expecting something in return?
Yeah. You're bringing up again a lot of really great things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to keep them all in my mind, and I'm like, okay, wait. So one of the things that you've said a couple times is like knowing your money story and
Mhm,
your habits and what are
mhm,
good and maybe habits that need to be changed. um, I know many times when I've talked to friends of mine who are married
mhm,
and they've gotten married and they thought they had the money conversation. They thought they did a really good job with the money conversation, but then they get married and then all of a sudden they find out the real debt
mhm,
and the amount of debt, and like you said, their priorities were different than what they presented.
mhm.
um, so again, because it's such a touchy subject, are there ways to find out about the debt aspect? Or do you literally just ask the question of how do you handle debt? Or do you have debt I should know about? Like, is
I
that
think it's with this, with the stage of relationship that you are in. If you now has said, and now we have moved from we're just dating, now we know we are dating, here, and you have come to your conclusion, and this other person, your partner, has come to the conclusion that yes, we we want to build life together.
mm-hmm,
Once you make that decision and you are serious about that, if we are now getting ready to talk about merging two financial households now together on a path into one financial household, then that is the time to, okay, if that is the case, then let's start having these hard money conversations. What is our
mm-hmm,
financial plan? And within that financial plan, we're going to say, what is our savings individually? What is it that we want to see joint? And what is it that we want to build to? Debt. How much debt do we have? Because there's good debt and there's some debt, okay,
right,
outstanding debt. And if there is a plan, then what is that debt reduction plan going to look like prior to
mm-hmm,
getting married? And then what is the priority that we're going to put on that?
okay,
Depending on, because there might be student loans that have to be paid off from,
sure,
it may not be paid off beforehand, but is that something that we're willing to tackle, and what the priority that we're going to ascribe that number to? Because then that's going to help you as you move towards wedding planning. Because if I have, or we already know we're coming in the door with $20,000 worth of debt, then it makes
mm-hmm.
no sense. Let me change that. If we already
It
know
would not
that,
be wise.
that if you already know you're coming into the door with a whole lot of debt and you're getting ready to move towards planning a wedding, then you
Yeah.
definitely want to look at the wisdom in terms of the cost of
Right.
your particular wedding, in terms of if that is going to
Amen.
be paid in cash, or what, if you're going to accrue any type of debt behind that. So it's good to
Right.
have that financial outlook and know the numbers before you're, going
Yes.
in, what that, piece is. Because one individual may not have debt,
Mm-hmm.
and all the debt that's coming in is the other person. So at that particular
Mm-hmm.
time, you really have to examine yourself in terms of, am I willing now to take on this other person's debt? Am I willing now to look at what the credit is going to be in the
Mm-hmm.
household, because we're getting ready now to walk towards that particular path. So being able to have those
Okay.
numbers and what that is going to look like, and understand what that plan is going to be and what the priority of that particular plan is going to be. Is there any other
Yeah.
financial responsibilities or obligation that either party is tied to? You want to know that up front, because you're taking in
Mm.
all of that, piece. And so then being able to write a realistic financial life plan, and be able to ascribe, like I said earlier, a priority on how you're going to address each particular area, and how you're going to be attention to what is that, what is going to be the priority for the first 5 years of our marriage. What is that in terms of plan of financial going here? So that
Are
is
these things that you should try to do on your own, or do you recommend meeting with a financial planner, or is this part of premarital counseling?
Well, actually, part of it is, you're going to have several professionals on your team prior to marriage, and you will
Okay.
continue to have several professionals on your team, afterwards. But definitely start within a pre-counseling session with that, piece, and be able to have those hard conversations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and prior to that, having a therapist, speaking to a therapist even before a premarital counseling, session, because there might be some healing that each party may need to go through prior,
Sure.
dealing with that in terms of being healthy and whole, and then be able to have those conversation. So that's definitely an aspect. I think if you're if you're committed, being able to connect with an attorney or a financial advisor in terms of how do you begin to start setting up documentation,
Mm-hmm.
uh, joint account. You have to have these, conversations. Definitely thinking about
Yeah.
uh, life insurance. September's Life Insurance Awareness Month.
Yes.
What insurability is going to look like on each partner, what that's going to look, policy, and that's real stuff that you begin to talk about,
Absolutely.
the foundation prior. But even more so, because guess what, in the midst of life happens.
Life happens.
So there's been a lot of times that couples have been in the process of being engaged. They were going to be married, but one of the partners,
Mm-hmm.
due to life passes away. Because
Mm.
first, are they entitled, because they spent, what did that look
Right.
look
No,
like?
that's
So really
good.
having those clear conversations, understanding where each
Sure.
person lies with one another, as a couple, as well as in relation to the family, their respective families.
Mm-hmm. This is awesome. Just this is a wealth of information. Really, just on this alone, I think people can hopefully start making some better financial choices, or at least know questions to ask when you're seriously dating somebody. Do you have any suggestions now? So some maybe small things that we ourselves personally can do now to just be in a better financial position, or maybe change our financial mindset, our relationship with money. Are there key things that are important to ask ourselves and challenge ourselves with?
I mean, I think key thing to really challenge your self, with, is really looking at, what does my current financial plan look like? What, where am I at in terms of my own debt? Um, do I have life insurance? Am I saving for, my retirement? What is it that I want to see overall? Am I investing? Those are those particular numbers. But then internally, you
Mm-hmm.
can begin the challenge to start tracking. And this is one of the things that I did. Uh, for a month, just like, they tell you if you want to lose weight, begin to start to track the calories and see what you're eating and what you're consuming in your body. You could look at spending or money management the same way to say, okay, well, here, what am I spending my money on? What categories does I go to? Okay, I know this is percentage in terms of my rent, my mortgage, these are the necessary things. What is there anything outside of that that I, spend as a unnecessary? And then if I do, why did I make that particular, purchase? So I know, and how many women are watching, but we have this little term and we say it all the time: retail therapy. Retail therapy. So if if I'm having a bad day at work or something like that, you either hit the Ben and Jerry's, or if it's not the Ben and Jerry's because you're spending money, or you're going some, oh, I saw this, that's really nice. Oh, that is a sale. What? Not to buy one get one free. Oh yes, my
not the Bath and Body Works
right here. You know what? Oh
yeah.
yes, I got what, and I'm a thrifter, so let me go for 4 Saturdays of the month. They got 50% off in a thrift store. Oh yes, we can do the little retail therapy. Because I had a hard day. I had a long week. I deserve this here, such and such.
Yes.
I say it in a joking manner, but the reality of that is, if I don't have no understanding behind my emotions on how I can say, do I really need this, or what is this going to break my, then I can end up in a particular spiral. Then I am constantly buying stuff that I don't need, and then going through buyer's remorse because why did I spend that money? Because oh man, an unexpected bill done came in the house and I don't have the funds to cover that. If you don't challenge that behavior, that can ultimately lead to some uneasiness when you begin to plan to be with someone, and then in the marriage, because then you find yourself, you're hiding all these purchases because so that is key. So you start to kind of
work on that now.
Not to say that you can't do retail therapy, but understand what that is going to be, and if there is going to be a financial boundary that you're going to have in place, that what I'm going to do, retail, but what is it that I'm going to spend? Do I have costs? I have 5 black purses. Is there a need for me to now go buy another black purse to sit on the shelf? What is that I'm trying to fill for a void? And oftentimes that's the internal work that I talk about in terms of your mindset, your habits, and behaviors. What I'm trying to fill. So those are the things I begin to look at. How where I hang out, I'm constantly over here, I'm spending over here, and then another pattern that you can look at, and this is from a therapeutic aspect. In terms of tracking, you could then begin to take it down to either another layer and say, okay, well, what feeling every time I spend over my budget, I realize every time that I spend money over my set aside budget, it's always when I'm feeling angry or sad. Oh, I need to work on that particular emotion as to why I go and do that piece.
Sure, that's good.
The other way, I'm always happy, and I'm here I'm feeling much better about myself. Then so I'm going to go spend more money. So looking back and look at those particular behaviors and say, okay, I need to get in check on what's going on internally about myself, and then what are some ways that I can meet my own rewards in life, because it is good to reward yourself for I did this, I accomplished this particular goal, I'm doing this, we met this here. So rewards are positive, are good. Is how do we reward ourselves, that we want to make sure that it's in a healthy and wise manner.
Absolutely. I love that. And I don't think enough people recognize how closely tied our emotions are with money, with our spending habits. And so the more that people start like tracking, like you said, then they'll start seeing some patterns. And if you're seeing patterns that you're like, this isn't going to get me closer to my goal of buying a house, or my goal of having a $8,000 towards whatever, then you can start tailoring back and pulling back and and again, you know, like Dr. Park said, go to therapy, get a financial advisor, discuss these things and premarital counseling, because if you don't discuss these things now, they will come up and you will discuss them, but they're not going to be in the most pleasant way. And money sometimes isn't the most pleasant conversation because, you know, somebody, you might not want to feel controlled, or you don't want to feel like you are controlling someone else. Like, if these, regardless, if this is somebody that you are saying, I want to be in a committed relationship with, this is somebody that I want to take my life and merge together with, you have to have these important conversations. But you got to start with yourself. You got to look in the mirror. What am I doing really well? What do I need to do a little bit better? Where can I cut back? Where is my debt? So all of these things that she's talking about, you know, this is good stuff for us now, whether you're single, dating, not never going to date, just happy where you are, or you want to be married. These are life lessons that I think are so important for all of us to take into consideration.
And also
Now,
just
yep.
go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I was going to ask another question, but
Go ahead. You got it.
so are there any red flags that people should be on the lookout as it relates to dating and the other person's budgeting or spending habits, that say, ooh, that's not that might, they may not be a person I can trust with money right now, or, you know, like, are there some red flags that we should be aware of in ourselves, but also in others that we're dating?
I mean, I think the part what is having unrealistic, realistic expectations in
Mm,
terms of understanding what it takes to run your particular household as it relates to finances. So if you're constantly a person and you already know that when it comes, I'm struggling to make ends meet, that I'm constantly borrowing money from other individuals and I'm not being, keeping my word,
mm,
that is a red flag within your own
mm,
self.
that's good.
Additionally, if another person is constantly always coming to you about, money, and they're not being a keeper of the word, then you got to be able to set some boundaries and say, okay, am I okay with giving this amount of money and we're not moving in a particular direction? So that is definitely some red flags that you want to look at in terms of someone asking money, or you
Mm,
asking an individual for money for this and that. You want to look at too is to what you're asking money with
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
some boundaries if you are going out, and depending on the parameters of the relationship of which you guys have agreed upon, that when this person to say, okay, it's my turn, we're going to go out and I'm going to pay, I don't have no qualms when it comes to, doing Applebee's, and that's where, we're here. But if you decide this is my turn and I want to here, and it's like, okay, well, let's go to the chart house, let's go to Vegas, and you find yourself, you're the one that's carrying more of the higher cost in the relationship, or that's not probably a little bit balanced out in terms of here, that may be a small, flag. So you just want to, be okay, that if you're okay with that, that you don't harbor any type of resentment because
mm-hmm.
the other individual may not. They're doing their 100% and giving, what they can on their level. So you want
Sure.
to understand the level how we go here, that you're not putting, or this person not putting pressure on you in that aspect to
Mm-hmm,
live or go outside of your boundaries or your comfort zone in order to kind of look good to the public.
mm-hmm. That's wisdom. That's
um,
wisdom.
so just having that particular piece, and so you just want to be mindful of that. I think
Okay.
some other red flags that may come is other uh, unhealthy behaviors in other areas that may spill over. So uh, in terms of substance or gambling addiction, oftentimes that we're going here to these different places that may impact the relationship. So when you look at red flags, it may not necessarily always be in terms of budgeting, but what is the lifestyle? Is there any risky behaviors other areas that will impact the overall financial, well-being. So how does a person manage their emotions? So if I am a hot temper and I fly off the handle, give it in the, in today's climax, it could be climate, it could be I might say something to the wrong person. I end up in a fight and they call the police on me. That is a cost. And so looking at a particular person's background, so just being mindful of behaviors in other areas that may pose as a red flag.
Absolutely. You're right, because it might not be that they're a terrible budgeter, but if they've had a past history of a substance abuse or a history of reckless spending, and that's to each its own what reckless spending looks like. Those are things to, like you said, be mindful of and have those direct conversations about. One of the things, and I can't believe it, we got like 10 minutes left, but one of the things that you had mentioned very early on is having a team of people and having conversations about money on a regular basis. What are your thoughts on, the monthly money management conversations? What does that look like, or do you think those are healthy to have as a couple?
I think absolutely having monthly money conversations, because the more you get comfortable talking about money, it's easier that you're able to problem solve in your particular marriage. You have a plan of a direction of where do you see this going. Now, once again, you're going to have these conversations if you're in a committed relationship, and we know that that is going to the altar. But if we're not, and we're not going nowhere, then you're not the person that I want to have a monthly money conversation with. Like, I want to have that, as a single, I may have that monthly money conversation with my mom or my sister or my, close girlfriends, where we have our own, accountability, club is like, okay, well, where are you going? Here, are you meeting your particular goals? So did you have that accountability? But, if I'm not in that particular level of relationship with you, then I'm not going to have those type of money conversations on a monthly basis. Are we walking towards this particular goal? So if we are committed and we're in courtship and we're engaged to be married, then of course you're going to have those hard monthly money conversations. What's here, what's, what do you value, what's needed here, where are we going to live, are you going to give up your house, or I'm going to move here, what is the children's education. All of that needs to happen and kind of have those particular discussions prior to you get to the altar. And guess what, after you get to altar, you're going to have those ongoing conversations, because life is happening, things are different, everything is good, prior to getting married. Guess what happens when one partner loses their job? Just look at COVID and the impact. People were financially who were stable working, the instance stuff that happens beyond their control. Someone in the household is not working, or these kids are, unable to go to school right now. So really, what is that particular, financial plan? And are you in a position that if either party, for whatever reason, is unable to contribute to the household, then what that plan is going to look like to continue to move forward? So having those conversations of really being open and honest about that and how you're feeling, it's here. It's crucial. So you're definitely going to have a therapist as part of your team. You're going to have a financial, advisor, a part of your, team. So you're going to have an insurance, person, part of what that is going to look like overall, because life is constantly ever changing.
Yes. And I've gone back to this, but I'm gonna go back to it again as far as having those accountability people, right? Either if you're single, having somebody that you're accountable to, that you can review your finances with, they know your goals, things like that, I think are excellent. And then my concern is, and I'm the type of person that I'm definitely going to have a financial person that talks about investing. I definitely am going to talk about money. And I definitely want those monthly money sessions and sitting down and where are we and where we're going and all of those things. For somebody that doesn't have the same financial story or history, that might seem very intrusive. Now, I didn't come from that, but I think it's healthy and I would like to establish that. So what are your thoughts on if a partner that you're with or thinking about being with or you're in a committed relationship with, you're wanting some people might be wanting to implement the monthly meetings that they don't have. Some people might be interested in meeting with you for financial consultation and setting these goals and all of these things, but how do they bring their partner on board so that this doesn't seem so scary? Because it can seem scary, it can seem a little intrusive. Somebody, oh, you're going to tell me how to spend my money? What? I'm not accountable to you. Like, some people can get really offended because it's like, here's this outside person coming into a very intimate part of our life, and now I have to be accountable of how I spend and why I'm making these financial choices. Like, that could be a really big challenge for someone, because maybe they came from, you spend it and you spend it all, and once it's gone, you just wait till your next check comes and then you spend it all, and they're not used to this level of accountability. I would think that would be one of the red flags that we were talking about earlier. But if they're willing to work on these things, is there any way or words of encouragement or any way that you could suggest that of helping to bring the maybe reluctant partner on board with having a sit down conversation with you, or having a financial advisor, or really having these monthly meetings? Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, it definitely does.
Okay.
That's why it's so important to understand where you are in terms of where you're moving forward your relationship. And so having all these individuals, it's hard. So what you would like to do is be able to talk with your particular partner and said, at the end of the day, what is it that how would you like to see our household grow and expand in areas of finances, and what do you think would be like the best way, and how should we move forward in some different ways? So you want to make it very safe. There is a game that I utilize. It's called Money Habitudes, and so there are several games that you can have a financial game night.
Okay.
There was like the games that we used to play growing up, the game of life. Monopoly is always a good game to learn about financial habits. There's a rich dad poor dad game, the cash flow game. So the more creative tools that are out there in terms of cards. And so instead of having it like a monthly meeting, you might do a monthly game night.
I like that.
And
That's
then
a great idea.
over a game night or something like that, you can easily drop in a topic about money and open up expand in that what's happening with going on. So you utilize tools to bring it in a much more safe environment.
Okay.
Like understanding what is your 5 love languages. I mentioned that earlier. So understanding your spouse and your personality will help you determine, like, okay, well, how do we talk about this topic, conversation. So and just and go from there. Each person is different, individual, here. And so the more that they get comfortable and hear talk, you find out what is the best way to communicate to them about a hard topic.
Absolutely.
And then once you understand their communication style, then you're able to say, okay, you know what? I know how to have this conversation. Is it helpful? Have this particular, person? Is it, here accountability? Because at the end of the day, when you talk with a financial coach or that aspect, you have to understand what their particular role is. And so oftentimes when you explain like what my role is, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money, because you're going to tell me how you want to spend your money. I'm not telling you, you're telling me. My only role is to help you get to your particular goal that you said that you want for your household. This is what you said you want. And then me, I just look up and say, this is paper, piece of paper. This is what you said that you want. However, your habits aren't, they're in alignment. So how can I help you get in alignment? Or what is it that you feel as though that you need help with in order to get in alignment with what your particular goal is.
Yes. Love it. Love it. So, this has been a wealth of information. And I thank you so much for your time. People can get in contact with you for more information. And as we're wrapping things up, are there any suggestions that you want to make sure people leave with, whether it be other books, or I know you've given us a couple games, or they're just words of wisdom?
Just words of wisdom. I think definitely uh, understand you, uh, understand emotions, your mood, what triggers you. Understand what is your philosophy, what are your values, and what are your core beliefs, and being able to hold fast to that piece. And then you're able to move forward and with the developing a financial plan that is suitable for you. So if you are straight and you are good with your beliefs, your core, your values, then it's just a matter of what do I need to do to begin to work to change my habits so I can move
Mm.
closer to the goal. And that is the different, step in terms of being able to write particular plan. How do you value money? What do you see? What is it that you want to receive out of life? And then after that, if there's some areas that you feel as though that you're not, healed in, then connect with a therapist to deal with the inner parts of you as to what's happening or what is preventing you from being able to meet your particular, goals. So
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. This has been a wealth of information, very encouraging. I hope people have gained, even if it's just a few questions to be mindful of, even if they've gained being challenged on having better money habits themselves. You've really given us some really great ways to start to build healthy conversations around money, whether it be in a relationship with a couple, whether it be with our internal self and having those and asking those hard questions and having those hard conversations. So, really, money is not going anywhere as far as we know of right now. But it's here, and it's not. It's something that we all need. Oftentimes, it can be the thing that causes a lot of arguments. And many times, unfortunately, it's one of the things for divorce. They talk about money, religion, politics, things like that, those big major hitters. So it is wise to discuss money before you are getting yourself connected to someone. If you go to that altar and you're like, I'm going to be with this person forever. Now, granted, we know divorce happens. It's the world that we live in. But if you go with the intention of this is somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with, then you might want to find out about their money habits before you get on the other side of marriage. So if you think it's hard now to have this conversation, is it going to be easier after you're married? I don't think so. I don't think so. So take some of the advice that Dr. Parks has given us today. Reach out, take a look at her Facebook group, the Soul, the number 2 Soul Wellness, and check that out to just see maybe how you can get in contact with her, have some information out there, read books, learn, take a class, whatever you have to do, but start something, start today, start small, even if it's literally just writing down for a week everything that you've spent out of the house. Then go to a month and track your spending. There's tons of free worksheets and budgeting. There's Dave Ramsey plan. There's all kinds of advice and opportunity to make yourself better in the area of money so that when you're joined with another human, we're all flawed humans. So when you join with another human, then you're going to both be hopefully working on your each individual financial concerns, those money stories. You know what your money story is, you know what your money habit is, so that you're working to perfection. I say that loosely, but betterment, right? We are progress is what we are looking for. You have a goal you want to progress towards. If you don't make changes now, then you're not going to reach those financial goals that you might have. You're not going to be able to buy a car outright in cash. You're not going to be able to pay for your wedding in cash. If you don't know your own money story, if you're living constantly on credit and you don't have a good vision of where you want to go. So just a few things to think about. You know, this isn't, of course, a full conversation. We could probably talk another hour on money matters, but we wanted to just start the conversation, because I don't think, I'm sorry, I don't know many singles that have a conversation like this on money, talking about money before you get married. I haven't seen that. So I'm thankful for the time. I'm thankful for the knowledge. And I'm hoping that many singles are blessed by this and you take advantage of the information and the services that are available to you, because you're going to spend money somehow. So spend it wisely. And that's the best thing that I can say. Again, I'm not the financial social worker, she is. But yes, any parting words you want to add?
No, I think you wrap it up. So I definitely know this will not be the last, but it's just to start to have the conversation. So that is awesome. And that you will continue to have more money matters conversation as you continue to grow, as you're involved in your particular relationships, because life is constantly ever, changing. So we are constantly ever changing. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those who are in our Single and Faithfully Expecting Facebook group, we will see you in the Facebook group. Feel free to drop your questions in there if it relates to money and we haven't addressed it tonight. Certainly let us know and we will get back to you as soon as we can. All right, until then, take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.